All right, here we are. It is February 2026, and we are doing our podcast on the Southwest Florida real estate market, particularly Lee County. And season is upon us, man. We are busy, aren't we?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. It started right after the holidays, and it's just been getting busier and busier.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, though, after, you're coming out of the slower time before the holidays. But we have a shorter season. I hear you a lot talking to your clients about the shorter season. What does that mean to buyers and sellers?
Yeah, so I think it was right around maybe Thanksgiving or, the Christmas holidays. I looked at a calendar just to see, because, everybody asks when the season's going to begin. And nobody really knows. It's just kind of a feeling. It kind of happens organically. Everybody shows up, and, well, it's season, baby. But it definitely has an end date. Season tends to start winding down Easter weekend. At that point, a lot of the people who've come here to spend their winter or vacation here have stayed here long enough, right? By that time, typically our market starts to, weather-wise, warm up and even get rainy and even get humid and hot. Mm-hmm. And back home, where a lot of our people come from, it's more moderate. It's in the 70s now. It's spring. It's nice. Mm-hmm. So they wait for that kind of like a last holiday, and then they're out of here. And so I think it's really important, because this year, Easter comes about 2 or 3 weeks earlier than it did a year ago. So think of it like a condensed season. You've got less time as a seller to test your price, less time as a seller to make moves like price adjustments or change up the marketing or do something different with the sale of your property. And buyers are going to have less time here if they're traditionally going to leave and go back home by Easter weekend. So they're going to start looking earlier. They're going to start making their offers sooner, because it's taking 30, 45 days to close on homes, right? So if I were a buyer, I'm going to be trying to lock in that home January or February so that it can be closed within the season instead of looking in March or April. I mean, you kind of want to be wrapped up, at least by the end of season, not just making your moves and getting started.
Yeah, because especially if you're a seller, right? Because you're going to have less season to market your home. And a lot of sellers like to kind of test their price a little higher.
I think everybody does, yeah.
And what we always see right around Easter time is we see a couple things. We see people starting to disappear. The storm shutters go up. The car carriers come and take their cars back north. And, slowly, one by one, you have fewer neighbors. And the sellers that have not sold yet start to realize, hey, I'm going to be possibly carrying this property another summer, another hurricane season. They're going to be paying taxes, insurance, HOA fees, all the carrying costs for another maybe 6 to 9 months. So a lot of them will just think, why don't I just apply that to a price adjustment and try to get it sold quickly? Mm-hmm. So we see a lot of price reductions around that March, April time, which makes it a good time for a buyer, too. They can get some really great, a little bit more negotiating power, I think, at the end of season.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sellers and agents and buyers alike who start to kind of feel the end is near, and they make their adjustments. So, my advice to sellers is, if we know that March and April are some of the largest price reduction months, do it now. Get it over with. Knock it out ahead of time. Attract a buyer to your house and have it potentially sold, rather than, if you're going to make that adjustment anyways, and you're doing it when everybody else is doing it, it diminishes the potency of that price adjustment. And, you're just one of like 100 houses that day that did it, and I don't know. I'd rather see my clients do it now and, get the full effect of that change, really get the bang for their buck, than wait until everybody else is doing it, because it's just not going to pan out for them, I don't think. Not the same way.
Yeah, so price it right. Price it correctly now. The other thing is, well, the other thing is that season, even when Easter does come and go, it's not like everything goes off a cliff, right? It's kind of a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
January, everyone's showing up, and sales are higher than it was in December, and then February, you definitely notice the sales are picking up even more than January. The peak is always March, April. And then it starts kind of curving back down again all the way through the end of June. And usually by then, that's interesting, because then in June, it's still just as many homes selling almost as in January if you look at that bell curve. But then after that, we really do get into those summer months. We like to do on this podcast, a lot of the things we talk about are what our customers are asking us about in real estate. And one thing we hear a lot lately is, where are the buyers coming from? So what do you say to your clients about when they ask you that?
Everywhere. I mean, they can come in locally. This is that fun time of year where they really are coming from everywhere. They could be your neighbors. They could be coming locally, but they could be coming from other countries or other states. I've had the great privilege of showing folks, showing folks homes who literally lived on the same street this last week as the home they're looking at. I showed another gentleman from Ohio, and then another one was from Germany. I mean, all in the same week. Where else can you do that? But I think traditionally for our market, Northeast is going to be the biggest. New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Midwest, Illinois, I think is consistently one of the top second home contributors to our market. Michigan, Ohio are really big ones. Indiana, Minnesota are really rising up in the ranks. And then there's some other ones too. We get some California flow, but I don't think it's as big as people thought it would be or people wanted it to be. It's still the Midwest and the Northeast, I think.
Yeah, the West Coast, like California, a lot of them are moving, Nevada, Utah, places like that. So we get a few of them, but not in the numbers like Northeast, Midwest. International buyers, that's slower now. Canadians, Europeans, for UK, slower, but still significant. We do sell homes every month to people from other countries, so that's still a flow.
It's still a flow. I think with the Canadians right now, beyond the geopolitical scene, a lot of them are they're price conscious because the exchange rate's not in their favor. So, we're thankful for every one that we get, but our big focus is going to be on the Northeast and Midwest, where we know it's just predictable. Our buyers are going to come from those states. They're going to buy our homes. And then think about season two for the locals. It unlocks a lot of doors. So a snowbird buys a local's house, and then they turn around and they upsize, downsize, go from a single-family home to a condo, or a condo to a single-family home. So don't forget about the locals. They may sell their home because it's season and then buy another local property.
Another big migration that I think is a little bit under a lot of people's radar is that East Coast to West Coast migration.
Yeah, you heard it here first. I mean, we've been talking about it for months, but it is every week that goes by, every weekend, we have a showing on one of our listings from somebody coming from Fort Lauderdale or Miami. And it doesn't matter the price point. It could be a $200,000 condo or a $4 million home. I mean, they're coming here for all types of priced property.
Yeah, so definitely we're grateful for that. That's definitely really fueling our market. Another question that a lot of people ask us, especially sellers, they ask us, are there a lot of cash buyers out there? Are people financing? How are people coming up with the money to buy the homes?
I think a lot of that comes from the interest rate talks that seem to be on the news a lot. And, I know it's one of the topics we wanted to cover today, but I think our market's pretty blessed in the sense that we have a lot more cash transactions than some of the people that we know around the country who sell real estate and we talk to and mentor with. So I think in our market, you've got it broken down by price.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at this. In general, Southwest Florida is roughly 50-55% cash, and the rest is financed, which is significant because around nationally it's typically only 30 to 35% cash buyers. So we have an inordinate amount of cash buyers here just in general. Season has a little bit of an effect on it because you get a lot of the snowbirds, the retirees, the second home buyers. They are paying more cash, usually about 60% paying cash. Come to off season and then it flips. Now there's more local buyers, families, your workers, and people that are still employed. They're going to buy and finance. Maybe 60% of them will finance. So it kind of flip flops on us. But price point is really the biggest factor. So under $400,000, it's going to be very heavy finance, 65-75% financed. 400 to 750 is about a 50-50 zone. The 750 to $1 million market, it's about 65% cash. And the big one, over $1 million, it's like 65 to 80% are paying cash. So definitely price point is your biggest factor there.
I don't know if I'm surprised by that. But I think because in our market, that $1 million plus, that really is our luxury or even our ultra luxury price points for our marketplace. And in other markets, like if you're in California or maybe you're in Boston, Massachusetts, where that's just like the average value of a house, those might all be financed. So, I think it's just the price point of our real estate and what that represents, what you're getting for that money. That's our luxury.
So, of course, the other question that comes up, especially with buyers are asking this, they're thinking, hey, will this new Fed chairman that'll be nominated this year, will they drive down these rates and get real estate booming again?
I'm hopeful.
I know, I'm hopeful too. The reality is everything we look at, though, is forecasting modest cuts this year, maybe a quarter point up to maybe a max of 3/4 of a point. So that if that plays out like we're seeing most economists say, that would mean rates could go down from the low 6% range we have today to maybe 5.5% to 6%. So, if you're holding out for 3%, that ship has sailed. Those days are gone. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see that again in my lifetime. But that's interesting to know because it makes a stable market, right? We're not going to have a boom probably, and we're not going to have a crash. So what does that mean for buyers right now and sellers that the rates are going to be maybe pretty steady the rest of the year?
Well, and I, you get caught up in the rates and stuff, and I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. It does create a bit of stability in the marketplace, so that's a good thing. But, I think for buyers and sellers, my advice would be, and it's probably the same when it was higher and even when the rates were lower and the market was high and the market is bad, and you got to make decisions based on where you're at in your life. If it's your time to sell this home or buy that property, you've got to do so because it's something that you need to do or want to do, not so much based on the rates or what they're going to do or what they might. At that point, there's a lot of maybes out there. But if you should buy this house, you need to buy that house, you need to move out of this house. I mean, it's just the right time for you is the right time to do it.
Yeah, and for buyers, you can't time the bottom of the market. The only time we hit bottom is when it's already going back up. And I would think if you look historically now, we've had 3 years of depreciating prices, so you'll probably look back and feel pretty good. You nailed it pretty closely. And yeah, sellers, I agree with you. Just do your sell because it's your lifestyle goal to make a change, not to wait on the rates. The big thing that is sellers are looking at too right now is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is the fact that buyers are backing out of real estate transactions in the highest record numbers that we've seen since they've been recording it.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing some areas of Florida, 19 to low 20% range of fallout is common. So, what's driving all that?
Well, I mean, and you got to think back too, right? I mean, they've been recording this not for a very long time, but long enough over the last 10 years plus, where we've gone through pandemics, we've seen stock market crashes, we've seen countries get invaded, more than one country get invaded, we've seen wars starting to end. So, there's been a lot going on while they've been recording this data, and today it's at its worst. So, I mean, that says a lot about the market, but buyer activity. So, we were talking about this, and we've had the good fortune of doing real estate, almost 20 years and almost 40 years, where we've seen a few things. And we remember short sales, we remember foreclosures. You remember those?
Yeah, fun times. 80% short sale foreclosure market here back around 08, 09, 10.
What a lot of people don't realize, though, is there's two types of contracts. There's a residential and an as-is. And before the foreclosures, back in 08, most of everything was done on a residential contract, what kept the buyer in contract much more tightly than the as-is counterpart. And it made their escrow, they couldn't just walk and keep their money. A down payment was a down payment with that contract. The banks forced it, so they changed the contracts. They didn't want to make any repairs. They were bank-owned assets that were being sold and liquidated on the open market. So they were forcing agents to use the other contract, the as-is. Well, fast forward, nearly 15, 20 years, and now the bank foreclosures are gone, but the agents are still using that as-is contract, which allows the buyer the right to get their deposit back if they cancel during the first 7, 10, 15 days is typically the contract max inspection period. So, buyers, they don't have real skin in the game. They put a deposit down, but they can get that deposit back. And so, I think what you're seeing is buyers are going to continue to look at homes, even though they've chosen one and actually gotten an offer accepted on one. Buyers are going to continue to weigh their options. Buyers are going to ask for things to be repaired. Some of them fair and some of them not so fair, like cosmetic items. Buyers know that they, for lack of better words, they're in control of the situation right now.
Yeah, and we got to remember, it's a buyer's market. It's 7 months supply. Anything more than a 6 month supply means more sellers than buyers. So they have a lot of options out there. As you pointed out, they don't stop shopping. They still getting those automatic feeds of new listings.
And that's important, I think, for consumers. I'm just going to pause on that. Consumers have to know that, sellers, that the buyers aren't intentionally looking at other homes. Some of them are probably, but, a lot of buyers, just because they bought a house doesn't mean that the rest of the internet in the world shuts off their feed. Zillow doesn't know they bought a house, so they're continuing to get e-alerts. If their agent or a plethora of agents have set them up on MLS portals and searches, they're going to continue to get those unless they were shut off manually. So, a lot of this just continues to happen while they're under contract. It's really important to keep that buyer engaged on the home that they have an accepted contract on.
Yeah, that's important for a seller to know. So advice we recommend for sellers today is, if you want, get your home pre-inspected so you can get ahead of anything that might come up in this home inspection. Go ahead, fix known issues. If there's something wrong with the house and you know about it, it's better to deal with it up front before you go on the market or while you're on the market, so that when it gets to escrow, it's taken care of. Renegotiating repairs. So a lot of buyers are going to come in and they're going to say, hey, we want you to reduce your price or give us a credit because of repairs. It's a good idea within reason for sellers to play ball on that, because if you don't, it's going to back on the market. You're going to have to disclose it to the next buyer. It's going to come up again in the next buyer's home inspection. You're also going to lose momentum, right? So, and that adds days to the market. And what does every buyer wonder about when they see a home was pending and then it came back on the market?
I think it's the same thing they all wonder when it's been on the market a while, right? Oh, what's wrong with this house? But then on top of that, it actually did go under contract and fell apart and came back active. There's so many questions swirling in that buyer's head. It's just not worth the risk if what they're requesting during that inspection request is reasonable enough to consider, or at least try to negotiate and find a common middle ground.
And when is the last time you saw a house fall out of contract and sell for more money to another buyer later?
I never thought about it that way. Probably never.
Yeah, the old adage, your first offer is usually your best one.
I know.
Tends to be true here. Here we go. Season is in high gear right now. We've got the best solid 3 months ahead of us of season. It'll be fun to see how it plays out here the next few months.
Oh my goodness. If February, March, and April can be anything like January, we're off to the races for a great season. So if you're a seller thinking about selling, what are you waiting for? Get it up for sale. If you're a buyer in the marketplace, there's so many great options, and the rates are still very favorable for buyers. So just contact your realtor and start looking at homes.
Well, hey, with that brutal winter up north, I imagine Florida's in a lot of people's conversations lately.
All you need is a sweater down here. We're not shoveling snow.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thanks for watching, and hope everyone has a terrific February.
All right, thanks.